Hello everyone and welcome back to another Brickmania review. Today we are taking a look at another one of Tiger131's absolute masterpieces, the Dicker Max. Released on the 23rd of September 2022, the Dicker Max costs $365, has 26 printed elements and includes one minifigure. Self-propelled guns such as the Dicker Max are known to have weird angles, thin armor and an open top, so you would imagine them to be pretty difficult to design in LEGO. But, as I said earlier, Tiger131 designed this kit, so I think the rest just speaks for itself. I don't know how he does it, but he literally managed to create a solidly realistic looking Dicker Max in LEGO. I mean, look at all these angles. Needless to say, the fighting compartment looks really amazing and even has an interior. On each side of the side armor you can find the first 4 printed pieces. A white Balkenkreuz on the side armor and a unit insignia on the frontal angled side armor. This insignia is from the Panzerjägerabteilung 521 or 521st Tank Destroyer unit, with the antlers being in yellow. The inside of the fighting compartment is nicely detailed. There's the benches for the crew members and even enough space for a minifig to stand in front of them. The cannon breech is actually connected to the barrel, meaning if you move either one of them up or down, the whole thing will move, which is a nice detail. On the right there's the commander's binocular periscope and also a little bench. Sadly, a minifigure cannot fit in here, meaning that the commander doesn't really have a realistic spot where you can place him. In real life, the fighting compartment would go further inwards, which it does sadly not here. However, in my opinion, this isn't all too bad, considering there also needs to be some space for this insane angling. Talking about the angling, I already mentioned it earlier, but this is really next level. The side armor has a perfect subtle angle and yet is surprisingly sturdy. You can even hold up the entire thing with just those 2 angled sides. Next to those are the 2 most prominent angles, the transitioning angles from the side to the frontal armor. These are actually built using bricks rather than plates and have a very interesting connection technique to the build, which I won't spoil for you. As mentioned earlier, on each side they feature the unit insignia printing. The one on the right also has an antenna attached to it. As you can see, the lower armor plate also angles nicely with the upper plate. On top of these is the roof armor, which is relatively simple yet looks good. It's nicely angled downwards and is also relatively sturdy. You can actually fold it up and see inside to get a glance of the insane building techniques which allow these kind of angles. Again, I won't spoil them for you, but let me tell you, building the foundation of the fighting compartment was a hellish experience. I honestly can't say that part of the build was very fun, however the important thing is that it gets the job done, which as you can see, it does nicely. Moving to the frontal armor plates, which are built relatively simply using 2 panel pieces. I personally feel like these are a bit too small for the frontal armor. Whenever I look at pictures from real life, the frontal armor plates look a bit bigger than these, making the front feel a little out of scale. Again, that's just how I see it and maybe you see it differently. Then of course it's time to move to the gun barrel. As it's often the case, the barrel is quite fragile. Even when just pushing it up or down, you can see it bend a lot. The connections are built using 2 pieces which aren't really very sturdy elements, causing the barrel to often fall off and crack in the middle. The build itself is nothing really special, except of course for the printing on the barrel's end. Printed on 4 pieces are 8 kill mark stripes, the tank's number 521 and a tank symbol. The thing annoying me about these prints is that, like on the Panther, they will rotate around very easily and completely mess up the look. This isn't really a design flaw, but I would have liked it much more if the other symbols were in other parts of the build. For example, I think the number would have looked great next to the Balkenkreuz. Then of course to the muzzle brake. It's 3D printed and fits nicely into the stud without any problems, however it is inaccurate. Every picture I can find on the Dicker Max from World War II show it with the muzzle brake having 2 holes on either side, which as you can see here is not the case. Unless there is some other reason I am not seeing, or I am wrong and this is the right muzzle brake, this is surprisingly disappointing. I mean, it's not a huge deal, but you would expect something like this to be right. The barrel cannot move to the sides, but can of course elevate up and down. Although the iconic angle downwards isn't quite as steep as in real life, it can still go decently low. Moving further downwards, we come to the driver's cupola or seat. I don't know what it's really called, but in case you didn't know, the Dicamax had two very outstanding seats for the driver. The one on the left was used by the driver and the one on the right was just an empty mock-up in order to get enemy tanks and troops to shoot at the empty seat. These are built really simply and look fine. In real life, the one on the right had a closed viewport and the one on the left had an open viewport, so that the driver could see. The one on the left has a very nice printed viewport, which looks really good, yet very sadly the one on the right just has a bar as a piece instead of a printed and closed viewport. I think this is a really missed opportunity for a really cool detail. Now to the long angled frontal armor. This whole thing was built in one piece and was then attached to the main build. It looks really good, Tiger hit the angle nicely. However, there is one issue with the connection to the main build. The plate really loves to snap upwards. You often have to press it down again, as if it's upwards like this, the angle is incorrect and these panel pieces go above the side skirts, which they shouldn't. This is really a bit annoying, and through this up and down, some bricks on the armor get pushed away from each other, leaving lots of little gaps. On the armor is the transportation stand for the barrel. This has absolutely no problems and is pretty self-explanatory. Moving on to the side skirts. As it is already tradition for him, Tiger once again managed to make the side skirts both sturdy and only one tile thick. Even with a wheel build like this, which makes it even more impressive. On the frontal side skirts are what I think are supposed to be the lamps. I don't know why he didn't just go with the standard printed German covered lamp thing, but this is okay either way in my opinion. Moving further back on the left, there are a bunch of tools attached to the side of the fighting compartment. On the right side there's a pretty detailed jack, which was actually designed by Cameron Ogilvy. Behind it is the engine's exhaust, which is also connected to the side of the fighting compartment. This attachment, however, causes this side not to be connected to the hull, meaning it wiggles around very easily. This is not a huge deal, but it is a little annoying. On the back there are two little doors to the interior, which both can open. In between them is a spare road wheel, which sadly does not have the same printing as the road wheels that are attached to the bottom. These actually have a neat suspension which works nicely and adds a nice look to it when you place your Dicamax in uneven terrain. My only complaint about the road wheels is that they do fall off every now and then. They are not that sturdy. Otherwise, the Dicamax also has very good tracks that roll extremely smoothly and barely get stuck somewhere. The minifigure included has a 3D printed cap and headset and otherwise just looks quite nice. It was actually designed by Drew and I think he did a very nice job. All in all, I think the Dicamax is quite a neat kit and an impressive design considering the difficult shapes and angles it features. $365 however is quite a hefty price tag. Whether it is worth it or not is up to you. Thank you very much for watching, more videos are coming.